Hey everybody, this is educational content. We're providing commentary to this case for the purposes of documentation, education, as well as research. Again, this is educational content. Let's go. Okay, guys. So welcome. Listen, tenemos una demanda. We have a lawsuit against a legendary Ramon Ayala. Now, for those who don't know who Ramon Ayala is, he is the legendary Mexican singer, songwriter, and accordionist, also known as the king of the accordion, el rey del acordeón. He is one of the most influential figures in the norteño music, a regional Mexican genre that features accordion and bajo sexto. Ramon Ayala has been like a pioneer in the Mexican music, norteño industry. He has won multiple Latin music awards. He's recorded over 100 albums. His career is well over 50 plus years. I believe he started right around the 1970s. And he's also the founder of the band Los Bravos del Norte. Some of his most iconic songs, I don't know if you guys remember as a child, these were the kind of music that would play, when everybody was drunk at a party, and some of us, we were sleeping in folding chairs, waiting and watching for our parents to be done partying. Tragos Amargos was one of the most iconic hits. When he started the band, he also brought his son, who is Ramón Ayala Jr. Okay, he's professionally known as Ramón Ayala Jr. He also is a singer and plays the accordion. Both Ramón Ayala and Ramón Ayala Jr. have performed together, worked together, although it's not been formally titled, but he has been the one that has taken over Los Bravos del Norte, okay, the group. So essentially, he has remained in leadership while his dad has kind of, reduced the touring in the recent years because, of course, he's getting a little bit older. So he's taken a step back from touring, okay? However, there's been no like official announcement that Ramon Ayala Sr. has stepped down, but Ramon Ayala Jr. is the one that has been leading the group. Now, this lawsuit is brought to us by Tony Buzbee. You guys know Tony Buzbee has definitely made his name in Texas for sure, but also in the music and Hollywood industry. Most recently, of course, putting his name out there when he brought in all of those, 100 plus lawsuits against Diddy. Okay, so there's been a lot of lawsuits against Diddy brought by Tony Buzbee. We've debated those here. We've reviewed those here to determine like what kind of success, what you guys have thought about those lawsuits. And then, of course, more notably, the lawsuit against Jay-Z, that is all being handled in California. I believe some of that has also been dismissed. But Tony Buzbee has also taken on a lot of interesting cases around currently and recently true crime cases where some unexplained deaths have happened. And so he's, represented families there. So you kind of have to weigh in how you feel about Tony Buzbee. People have had their opinions about Tony Buzbee. Okay, so let's get into this lawsuit. And of course, let me know what you guys think and put your comments in the chat. All right, let's go. Okay, guys, here we have the Ramon Ayala lawsuit that we've been talking about that was dropped this week by Tony Buzbee. Let's get into this lawsuit. So here we have a John Doe 1, who is just the one plaintiff, and he is suing Ramon Ayala Jr., and Liram LLC, Ramon Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte, which is the name of the group. Okay? And this is in Hidalgo County. Plaintiff John Doe 1 complaints of defendant Ramon Ayala Jr. and Liram LLC, Ramon Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte, and for cause of action would respectfully show this court the following. Here's the factual background. This case seeks damages for multiple physical and sexual assault. This is one of several cases to be brought by multiple John Does who have suffered at the hands of Ramon Ayala Jr. due to his negligence of the defendants. The damages herein exceed $25 million. Ramon Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte, the band, is one of the most prominent and influential musical groups in the history of regional Mexican music. Founded in the early 1970s, the band has earned international acclaim, multiple Grammy Awards, and recognition across the United States, Mexico, and Latin America. The group founder, defendant Ramon Ayala, is widely known as the king
of the Accordion, El Rey del Accordion. The band's name carries substantial cultural and commercial weight. Touring operation of a musical institution of this stature involves extensive logistics, staff, and supported personnel. Crew members travel in close quarters, work long hours, and depend upon supervisors for assignments, compensation, and continued employment. Within that structure, authority is centralized. Plaintiff John Doe 1 is a professional photographer and videographer residing in McAllen, Texas. In or about September 2024, plaintiff was recruited to work for the band's touring operations. He was hired by defendant Ramón Ayala Jr., who exercised direct managerial authority over crew members, including control over assignments and compensation. By virtue of his position and familial connection to the band's founder, defendant Ayala Jr. yield substantial authority. Crew members reasonably understood that their livelihood depended upon remaining in his favor. Ayala Jr. repeatedly abused his authority, and the other defendants knew it but did nothing about it. During plaintiff's employment, defendant Ayala Jr. engaged in a troubling, dangerous pattern of escalating sexual misconduct and assaultive behavior in the workplace. Defendant Ayala Jr. regularly consumed cocaine and abused alcohol while on tour and while aboard the tour bus. On one occasion, defendant Ayala Jr. threw a white powdery substance believed to be cocaine in plaintiff's direction. The substance landed on plaintiff's clothing. Plaintiff and the other crew members also observed defendant Ayala Jr. ingesting cocaine and engaging in erratic behavior while under its influence. So they show us a picture, in which I believe will probably be an exhibit. There's a picture of defendant Ayala Jr. holding a baggie with a white substance. Defendant Ayala Jr. frequently engaged in sexually explicit conduct in the presence of the crew members. He routinely exposed his areas aboard the tour bus, in other work-related settings. He frequently walked around in a state of undress and performed sexually suggestive acts towards subordinates. On at least one occasion at a public restaurant, defendant Ayala Jr. pulled down his pants and engaged in obscene conduct in view of crew members. Oh man. Here's a picture, and this is like maybe a woman. So this person is like putting up their middle finger. I don't know if you guys can see it. Like she's got the middle finger up. I'll circle it. Looks like a woman, but it could be a man. I don't know. Oh my gosh. That's blurred. So I'm assuming this is Ramón Ayala Jr. in just his underwear. Ay, ay, ay. Wow. I don't know if that's him. Or is this his dad? I don't know. I mean, it kind of looks like it could be him. Y'all, I don't know how I feel about that, but okay, it looks like it could be him. I don't know if the guy is bald. He's kind of given that. Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyways, let me scroll down because I got to blur some of this. It looks like he's wearing a thong. Okay. Sorry. Defendant Ayala Jr. in various stages of undress aboard the defendant's tour bus. Defendant Ayala Jr. also engaged in conduct designed to demean and humiliate plaintiff and others in connection with compensation. On multiple occasions, defendant Ayala Jr. licked individual dollar bills and then threw them towards plaintiff while plaintiff was awaiting payment for services rendered. Ew. Like he licked the money? The conduct was intentionally degrading and occurred in the presence of others. In the confined workspace of the tour bus, defendant Ayala Jr. engaged in unwanted physical contact with plaintiff and others. On one occasion, he deliberately roughly touched plaintiff's buttocks without consent. On another occasion, defendant Ayala Jr. made non-consensual contact with the plaintiff's anal area while walking through the bus. Oh my gosh. These frequent acts were deliberate as in nature and unwelcome. On or about August 2025, after returning to Hidalgo County from an out-of-state performance, plaintiff and other crew members were seated on the tour bus, awaiting payment for services rendered. Without warning and without consent, defendant Ayala Jr. physically grabbed plaintiff's legs, restrained him, forcibly removed plaintiff's footwear, and engaged in actually offensive physical contact with plaintiff's foot and lower body. Specifically, he held down and sucked on plaintiff's toes. Oh my God. Defendant did this act in a sexual manner and did it by force, not only to gratify himself, but to degrade the plaintiff. This is some crazy ass ish. Plaintiff attempted to pull away, but was physically overpowered. Several co-workers witnessed the assault. Plaintiff exited the bus in shock and humiliation. Witnesses acknowledged the seriousness of the incident and cautioned plaintiff regarding Ayala Jr.'s behavior, implicitly recognizing both the gravity of the assault and Ayala Jr.'s unchecked authority within the organization. The incident occurred in a confined workspace environment where plaintiff was economically dependent upon those present for compensation and continued employment. The power imbalance was clear and undeniable. When plaintiff later confronted defendant Ayala Jr. regarding the incidents, defendant Ayala Jr. dismissed the conduct as horseplay and instructed plaintiff to get over it. Following plaintiff's objections to the assaults, defendant Ayala Jr. altered plaintiff's travel arrangements. Whereas plaintiff previously traveled aboard the tour bus with the crews, defendant Ayala Jr. required plaintiff to return in a separate passenger van rather than the rest of the team. This separation was not operationally necessary. It was imposed after plaintiff expressed discomfort with defendant Ayala Jr.'s conduct and functioned to isolate plaintiff from the crew and reinforce defendant Ayala's authority. Defendant Ayala Jr.'s authority. The decision to segregate plaintiff from the primary touring group altered the conditions of plaintiff's employment and further contributed to the hostile work environment. The conduct described here within was not accidental, playful, or misunderstood. It was intentional, sexual, non-consensual physical contact carried out by a supervisory authority against a subordinate employee. Despite knowledge of defendant Ayala Jr.'s ongoing behavior, including substance abuse, repeated and frequent sexualized public misconduct, and inappropriate physical contact with crew members, defendant Ayala failed to intervene, supervise, discipline, or remove him from authority. Okay, so when it says defendants failed him to intervene, okay, because the majority of the lawsuit seems to be focused on Ayala Jr., not Ayala, not dad, right? So he's suing everybody else, right? Because they also failed to act upon these behaviors that Ramon Ayala Jr. was doing, okay? Given the prominence and the public stature of the touring operation, the seriousness of this conduct extends beyond a private workplace dispute. The individuals involved represents a global recognized enterprise whose operations are subject to public scrutiny and media attention. So, as a direct and proximate result of the assault, plaintiff has suffered humiliation, emotional distress, anxiety, and disruption on his professional and personal life. Defendants knew or should have known of Ayala Jr.'s propensity to engage in inappropriate physical conduct, yet failed to intervene, supervise, or remove him from a position of authority. In doing so, they created and maintained conditions that made this assault foreseeable. Okay, so they put in the discovery plan there. And then the parties. So they're suing. So plaintiff is John Doe. Okay. And Ramón Ayala is the individual residing in Texas. Okay, they got the address there. Ramón Ayala Jr., who we know is his son. And then Defendant Lirum LLC, which is, I believe, the company over the band Ramón Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte. Okay. They're wanting this lawsuit in Texas, and they are saying that the causes of action are assault and assault. So here, he is realleging what he has already alleged before: intentional, offensive, non-consensual physical contact, touching his buttocks, physically restraining him, grabbing his leg, removing his footwear without consent, engaging in actual inappropriate physical contact with plaintiff's foot and lower body. Such conduct constitutes intentional, offensive, unlawful touching. Under Texas law, it says that a person commits assault if he intentionally or knowingly causes physical contact with another when he knows or should have reasonably believed the other will regard the contact as offensive or provocative. I mean, nobody like intervened when he was doing this. The other count is negligence and gross negligence. Okay. Here they say that his conduct was intentional and constituted negligence and gross negligence while acting in the course and scope of his employment. So by physically restraining him and engaging in this kind of behavior. Negligence and gross negligence of Lirum LLC and Ramon Ayala, so the companies they're suing, right? The group. So people are aware, negligent hiring, negligent retention, and failing to adequately supervise Ramón Ayala Jr. Okay? Ratifications, defendants ratified Ayala Jr.'s conduct by failing to discipline him, failing to remove him from authority and continue to retain him. So they're saying that the company didn't like protect the employee. But I do wonder, did he leave? Did the plaintiff leave or was he fired? Because I don't think it's like a wrongful termination. It's not giving wrongful termination in this lawsuit. Okay, so damages, physical pain, discomfort, emotional distress, mental anguish, loss of peace of mind. Now they're giving a notice of intent to use discovery and request for jury trial, preservation of evidence, and prayer for relief. Now, I believe, and again, this is Tony Buzbee. For those that don't know, Tony Buzbee is a prominent lawyer in Texas. I mean, he has had a lot of, successful cases in Texas that he's won. Most recently and notably, he's represented a lot of the Diddy victims, which a lot of us, we were not impressed with, the way in which he did his lawsuits. Just saying, we were not impressed. With the lawsuits, he had a back and forth with Jay-Z as well, but I believe some of that has already been dismissed in California. So there is that lawsuit. Now, based on this, just on the very first page, I believe that there is going to be multiple, based on this sentence. This is one of several cases to be brought by multiple Don Does who have suffered at the hands of Ramón Ayala Jr. Okay? So there's going to be multiple people. So if you grew up kind of in that music, because I mean, Ramón Ayala is a staple in the Latino culture. Like we all kind of grew up with that kind of music. There wasn't any parties you couldn't go to where Ramón Ayala was not playing. Let me just say this. I feel like, especially like, I've heard the stories before. Some of these bandas, one specific one that was huge and still very huge. Every once in a while you'll hear their music on TikTok, like they'll have like TikTok trends. I remember that there was a family friend that we had, and back when this happened, this was like early 90s. She went to one of these concerts, right? And this was around the time where La Quebradita was like a huge deal, right? And it was like like a Mexican dance move. I'll show like some clips here, right? And this specific band was huge. And a family friend of ours went to one of their concerts of a band who's I'm not going to say because, for obvious reasons. She was violated by one of the members. She went backstage and she was violated by one of the members. And then it later came out that another person had been violated by a member too. And nothing was ever done legally. Like, she dealt with a lot of emotional pain, a lot of harm, and never really sought justice for that. And I mean, she's still dealing with some of the repercussions of that. But, this thing where that women and men can be violated in these environments, and especially if they're undocumented, I found this to be the thing too, where it's like, sometimes it'd be your own that actually threaten you, that if you report something, you're going to get reported to ICE. And so they tend to use ICE as means and ways to kind of keep you silent and quiet. I've seen that happen too many times. Like I said, it'd be one of your own who you think, they give you a job, they pay you and all this other stuff. And then the minute that they do something to you and you want to report it, ooh, girl, they'll threaten ICE on you, or they'll, make those kinds of threats, which is a huge deal in the Latino community, to try to silence people from speaking out. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is just a lawsuit. Ramón Ayala Jr. and the band, they have every right to defend themselves. Everything in the lawsuit is alleged, and we're just reading it. So I think we'll see what happens in court. But 25 million, and there's going to be multiple. Does make you wonder who else is speaking out against Ramón Ayala and everybody. It's not the first time they have been sued, just so people are aware. All right, I'll let you guys go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, we're trying to get better. I got a horrible sore throat. It's going around. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.